it's
Yeah,
a beautiful country, and it has a place to share a lot about African culture in this world.
no, absolutely. And unfortunately for me, I didn't start going through those phases until after I saw the movie. After I
Yeah,
saw the movie, taking Portuguese classes, learning about
Portuguese. Yeah,
capoeira, it was after that movie that really inspired me. And so it was kind of like the 7 years in between, I had to become a new person and make a lot of changes.
yeah. It's funny, man, because as I've been doing these interviews and having read a lot of different other people's experiences, movies play a big part in the life of us as Americans. Did you realize
Well,
that?
well, I think so. Even
For
here, I'm
young
in
ones too.
Tanzania right
Yeah,
now. No, absolutely.
yeah.
Even Tanzania, I was just speaking to somebody last week, and a guy across the street, we were having a conversation. And I said, "Do you know anything about Americans?" And he said, "The movies."
Dang, man.
And
So
so,
this is
so
something we got to really think about, because
well,
you
it's a
know.
big music videos,
Hmm.
movies. These are a big export, and so it's something that we definitely have a discussion about. But you're right.
Yeah, yeah, man. So, okay, tell us a little bit about that restrictive life, because you mentioned the Jehovah's Witnesses. That was throughout all of your youth through high school?
I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness,
Okay, so this
and
was your primary experience,
that's
belief
it's
system.
your culture. It's your culture
Hmm.
basically, and like you said, your belief system. And I got inculcated with a lot of dogma and superstitions, and they were just suffocating me.
Now,
And I
some
remember,
people, oh, I don't want to interrupt you, but just to add context,
no,
some
no, go
people
ahead.
have said that, and I have a friend that was in as well, they said that there are some disciplines and some, depending on the person maybe, he did say that there are some benefits in the sense that you learn how to resist peer pressure and things like that. Depending on who
No,
you
no,
are, you might be able to maintain some self-esteem and composure that other kids maybe would be subjected to that wouldn't be able to maintain that self-discipline.
sure, sure. There are
Like kind of a
benefits, and
ironic
there are
byproduct
positive.
of it. Yeah.
There are positives, I guess, to being raised in that culture.
Hmm.
I just think that looking back in retrospect, I don't think that I would have chosen that path from an
Yeah,
early
obviously that's
age.
an extreme way to try to enforce that type of decision making,
Yeah,
you know.
and I think it just impedes your growth as an individual.
Hmm.
So that's my thinking. It's not that I had, and that's why I don't focus the whole book on that. It's just like one essay, because it's like this is who I was. Because I also, I don't like victimization, and
Hmm.
there are plenty of. There's a movie called The Secret, and I remember watching this years ago, and it discussed so many people who had these horrific, traumatic upbringings, and they weren't
Hmm.
raised as Jehovah. They weren't raised as Jehovah Witnesses. So,
Right, right. Everybody
shit
has
happened.
whatever things that they have difficult
Yeah,
in their
bro.
life
You
growing up. Yeah.
right, and so, but I
But what was the
was,
catalyst to get out of it? I mean,
I think
like,
wanting to experience this new life was the catalyst, bro.
oh,
Really
okay, okay.
wanting to go to Brazil. I also talk about in the book, me becoming I eventually became a photographer. I left a six-figure salary and was basically working for a fraction of that and getting by in New York City, and I did this because it was something that was very important to me. And so I had to make, drastic changes in my life.
Now, this is very important because I've talked with some other guests about this idea of a lot of guests have moved from engineering that I've talked to and others, some of these
Mm,
IT type of fields. This six-figure idea, right? When you got to that six-figure salary, how did you
yeah.
feel? Were you like, okay, I'm making this money? I mean, was there any
It,
enjoyment
it,
out of that? Like, okay, now
it
I
did
can use
not.
this money for this and that. And
It didn't do anything for me.
wow, did you
And
think it would?
I'll
Or,
say,
I mean, I'm
yes, of
sure
course,
most
of course.
people do.
I thought when I got to that level, that's why I was working so hard in the IT field.
Right, right.
So I thought when I got to that level
Yeah.
financially, I'd have all the shorties and I'd have all the holistic life to go with it. And when I
Yeah.
got there, it was like, okay, this wasn't
You
what I
still
was
had to
looking
do
for.
go to that type of job every day. So you couldn't really.
I talk. I didn't even mention this in the book. It's like there was a point where I'm at work and I felt like Neo in the Matrix. I was working for a financial company. I was like, what the fuck am I doing here, man? And it was just like it was destroying my soul, bro.
Literally. Whoa, that's
And
deep.
so I think the other big problem I had is that I identified with my job. There's nothing wrong with having a computer job or IT job,
No.
but that's how I would go out, and I would, you know, that's how I identify with people, and that was my status, and that was my self-esteem. I based my self-esteem on that, I should say.
Got you. So at that point, was there any significant moment when you were like, okay, I'm out of here? Was there a final straw? Was there that Neo moment where you ran and jumped out the office building and jumped to the other office?
Yeah. I had several of those moments. It wasn't like just one.
Yeah.
Kind of like the movies, it's just one
Yeah,
moment. It's
right,
kind of
right.
like there were
This
several. Like I said, it was like, and then when I was in New Jersey, I talk about this. I had seen City of God, and there was another brother who had written a book, and he was an IT guy, but he had used photography to express himself. Once I started covering boxing matches in the evening,
Oh, okay.
I was working as a journalist. I was moonlighting, and this girl I was dating, she was an editor. I don't want to say her name. She was a well-known editor, so she was giving me insight on the editing game. So I was able. It was just so cool for me to go cover a action show, a boxing match.
It's kind of like
And
Fight
then the next
Club.
morning,
You know that movie Fight
you're around all
Club?
these.
Like you,
Yeah. It's like, well, it's that kind of, you're around all these exciting people. This,
yeah.
this environment, that exciting, entertaining people, and then the next morning, you're
It's like,
sitting.
yeah.
You have doctors on and a cotton shirt, and you're like, what am I doing here? It's like, this is not. I'm not supposed to be here. It was just
Right.
it was a very so that helped the transformation tremendously.
Gotcha. You started to identify and understand that, human beings, if you're at boxing, I mean, you got the athletes who are living their passion. You got the writers and journalists that are covering the boxing. You're seeing fans probably coming from all walks of life, spending money to see a
Right.
boxing match. And you're like, wow, man, these people. So it's like, it creates an environment where you see people living their dreams, basically. And you know?
No, absolutely. And you mentioned significant moments. There was a night I covered a fight at the Manhattan Center, and I remember it was like probably my first ringside assignment at the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked back and I saw all the people in the crowd, and I said, "Wow, look at me! I'm on the other side of the fence, and I didn't pay anything. I didn't pay anything to be here tonight. And I'm
Yeah.
covering an event, and it was like a Shannon Briggs fight. It was, but it was big enough. It was a decent card. And it was like, wow, normally I would pay to watch this event, but here I am, journalism, put me in another place. So in the, even in the book, I mentioned my journey into journalism, my journey into and travel, how travel has played a role in that. But it was like I had to make a shift as a person in order to start being able to travel abroad.
So journalism was that transitionary kind of like passion career / that was that bridge for you a little bit. Yeah.
Well, look, bro, I'll be honest with you. I dated several editors, several, and I'm not gonna mention their names because there's a lot of people in the book I don't mention their names, but
oh, that's no
there
problem.
were there were several sisters that I dated that assisted my journey and my elevation into journalism. And the reason that they found me, two of them, because I used to write a lot on Craigslist. And I'll just keep it 100 with you. I wrote a really passionate ad about the woman I was looking for. And Craigslist used to be a lot of people who like to read and very cerebral. And that's how I met some of them.
So you literally were drawing people to you who like these type of intellectual ideas,
who like
and stuff
right, who are cerebral writing.
Yeah.
And so that was the energy I was putting out, and I attracted two of them, and then that way. And then another one I just met on an event.